Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today I have a super fun video for you guys. Today I'm showing you my first ever YouTube collaboration video. I was lucky enough to be able to do a YouTube collaboration with one of my coworkers and dearest friends who's also on YouTube, GillyFishies. I'll be leaving a link to her channel up in the top right corner of this video and in the description box below. Also, I'll be leaving a little end screen link at the end of this video so that you can go over and find her channel. Make sure to subscribe so you can see her part of our collaboration. She's an amazing artist who works mainly in digital work and does amazing pieces. So make sure you go subscribe and watch her videos. So, the challenge we did was the character swap challenge. So, she sent me some of her characters and I picked one to illustrate, and I sent her some of my characters so she could choose one to illustrate. So make sure and go to her channel so that you can watch her illustrate one of my characters in her own style. So, first off, I picked this character that she sent me, and I was given the challenge to draw that character in my own style, however I saw fit. So I started off with a simple sketch, and then I decided that this piece would be some simple line work and watercolor. So usually my artistic style varies, but a lot of the time it has very bold, sharp line work. This wasn't quite the case with this piece. I decided to go fairly minimal on the line work and to focus more on the shading and color using the watercolor. So the line work is pretty uniform, pretty even throughout the entire piece. There are a few spots that are varying in size, like the chin and the hair part, but that just gives some contrast to the piece and gives it more depth. So I used my microns for this piece. I have a ton of microns. I used mainly 03s for this piece in jet black. I love microns. They're the only pen that I have and fine liner that I found that are water, they don't smear when you use water, especially since I use watercolors a lot. That's very important to me, and I've never noticed a problem. They're very waterproof. Use them all the time in my work. So I'm doing my line work here. As you can see, or if you saw previously when I showed you the picture, the piece is very pink. There's lots of pinks and reds and blacks, so that's what I tried to go for. That's why I did a black pen for the line work. I do have other colors and microns, but I wanted to give it a uniform color scheme. So if you can see something that varies from this piece from some of my other pieces that I showed on this channel, this is my first full-on portrait. I've done profiles before, but this is my first full-face portrait. So I'm very excited to show this with you guys. Also different from some of my other pieces is the hair in this portrait. It doesn't defy gravity like my other hair has, and it actually has some detail to it. So when I usually do hair, if it's not fantastical galaxy hair like some of my previous videos, it falls naturally. It's fairly wavy. Always ends in kind of a point unless it's behind something. And one of my favorite YouTubers on this planet is Danica Sills. I absolutely love her videos. She inspired me so much to do watercolors. And so I was really inspired by the way she did her hair, which is not strand by strand, but more hair segments. So that's what I did in this portrait. I blocked out main sections of hair, and then I just added in a few lines to give a movement effect to show that that hair has movement and flow, and it's fluid and natural. So that's how I did the hair in this one. I had on the right side of her face, I had it go behind her collarbone area, and then behind her shoulder, and then on the left side she has a small piece that's not quite as long, that's just kind of hanging there. So yeah. Another aspect of this piece is the character isn't necessarily human. As you can tell, the ears are animalistic, and the eyes in the original aren't very natural, so that's why I went with the very large, drastic eye in this portrait. Another thing in the video that in the original piece that I wanted to convey in this piece was how the hair kind of draped over the side of the face. You couldn't see all of the features, which kind of added a mysterious aspect to the piece. So I decided to carry that over into my rendition of it as well. Now, also with this piece, you'll notice at the end I left the eye completely white. That's not based on the character, that's my own artistic style. I don't know if it's because I'm lazy or what, but I never fill out my eye. I always leave them white. I feel like it adds some mysterious nature to it and leaves the audience guessing to who the character is and what their purpose is. It just adds some mystery and unknown to the piece, and I think it also fit well with the kind of not quite human aspect. It's more difficult to relate to it because it's not human, and to give that effect, I left the eye and ears the way they are. So here I'm mixing the color for the skin tone. I mixed it with some M-gram watercolors, which I absolutely love. They're Series 1, red and yellow. These colors are amazing, however they're not too terribly vibrant, so you can't get super saturated colors with them. So a technique I used for the skin, which I've been using lately, is where you load up the brush with watercolor, leave a puddle, dry the brush off, and then work the puddle around the entire area. I find that this gives a really even wash, which is a pro. However, there's a downside, is you lose a lot of the pigment that you originally see because you're fanning all of it out over a certain space. I wouldn't recommend doing it for certain pieces where you want a really saturated pop of color, but if you're doing something that needs to be faint and even, like skin, for example, I definitely recommend it. It's a great way to get a really even wash. So on the face, I did my average shading that I always do, which is part of my artistic style, which was part of the challenge, which is really harsh shading, so you'll see me do that in a minute. Right here, I am mixing, I'm mixing the color for the ears because I wanted to wait for the skin to dry. Something that I wanted to practice in this piece was actually being patient and waiting for it to dry, because a lot of the downsides of my other pieces and the things I wanted to improve on was the cleanliness of my lines and shading and stuff like that. So I wanted to make sure the skin was actually dry before I started on it again with shading. So I started with the ears instead. In the original, the ears were kind of gray with these brown undertones, so I mixed some black Lockwell watercolor, which I absolutely love. It's very saturated, with a little bit of some red terracotta Winsor & Newton Cotman watercolor to give it that earthy undertone underneath it. So that's what I did for the ears, and then now I'm mixing the shading for the skin. What I always do is I mix a ton of color for the skin, do the skin how I want it, and then for shading I just add in a little bit of whatever color works with my color scheme. So for instance, this color scheme is very warm, so I added in red to make the color darker for shading. Now if you were doing a cooler piece where the skin was more on the gray side, you'd want to add more blue in to darken it to give the shading. So as you can see here, the shading I use is very dark, reddish pink color. Really thick around the chin, tapers off near the shoulders, and then I have some shading right behind the bow to give the effect of depth, as in she's almost wearing the bow or it's out in front of her. So talking about the bow, in the original piece, there was a bow on her right or left shoulder. One of her shoulders had the big black bow on it, and I was sketching this character and it didn't feel quite like what it was in the picture. It didn't feel like the same character. I needed to relate my piece to the image more. So I thought, why not use the bow? But I didn't want to use it the way the image used it because I wanted to make it different. So I almost had it like the front of a dress or just an object out in front of her to help frame the piece. And so that's what I did. I added a big, huge, flowy, you'll see later, grayish black bow out in front, and it gives the piece a lot of depth. I think it relates the character back to the original image more, and I think it adds a lot of uniqueness to the image. It really gives the character a lot more mystery and uniqueness. So here I'm adding shading into the sides of her hair to give the effect that the hair is actually on top of her face, around the mouth to give it that 3D pop, and around the nose as well. I also go in above that dark eyelash. So also with that eyelash, I originally had a really dark like cat wing, very thick, and I was gonna give it almost more of a like a chibi style where the eyelash and eyebrows and stuff come over the hair, but it really wasn't working. I didn't think it fit the piece very well. It didn't look quite right, so I put it back behind, and the hair, that's why her eye's so dark, because she has a cat wing underneath that strand of hair that she has covering the left side of her face. Here I'm doing her lip. I just mixed some red engram color with some blue engram color. That blue is very almost purpley when you use it by yourself, so it kind of darkens and muted the red. I used the same technique on the lips that I did with the skin, where I put a puddle of color pigment in the area and then picked it back up with my brush and fanned it out, which gave it a really even tone. And then I went in later and darkened it up a little more because I really wanted some sharp contrast between her skin and her lips. So here I'm going to go back in shading the ears. I did it very similarly to the skin, where I did just a sharp line, thick line to just variate the shades in the skin with the ears. So I just mixed some more black into the pigment I had already made for the ears and just did some simple shading just to give it some shape. So that's me doing that. I was actually very proud of my shading in this piece. I was very in control of my brushes, which is something my shading doesn't always reflect. So I was really happy with how this turned out, and I think the main reason why it worked out so well with the shading this time was because I was more patient, letting things dry. That way the pigment didn't bleed into areas that I have meant to already be dry. So here I think I am mixing the color for her hair. Nope, I'm not. I'm shading in the lips. So I just mixed some darker colors just to try to give it a little feel of maybe like a curve. It didn't quite turn out. It just kind of darkened the lip, but I think I like how the lip turned out. And I also darkened it a lot and then picked up some of the pigment in the middle just to give it that effect of a curve. But otherwise it's kind of flat, but I'm happy with it. So here I'm mixing the color for her hair. Now in the picture she had a very hot pink, vibrant pop of color hair, which I didn't really feel like it fit my piece. The color scheme that's in the photo was kind of different from mine. Mine was more muted. So I actually took some magenta gouache and watered it down because none of my watercolor was vibrant enough to give a pink color. And then I did the same technique that I used with the skin, where I did a puddle of color and then I just fanned it out over the entire length of the hair. And I really like how the hair turned out. I think it's a great color. I think it matches the skin and the lips. I almost think it's a lighter color of the lips, which is surprising because I didn't use the same gouache in the lips as I did with the hair. But it's very similar, and I didn't get the flattest wash with it. It's kind of lighter up towards the top near her part and then darker in the curve, but it actually looks like how hair would look when it fell. The shadow's in the right place, the highlights are in the right place, so I'm very proud of how that turned out. Overall, I really like how this piece turned out. I think it turned out really great. I really liked how this character came out, and I was happy with the character I was given. Real quick, I just want to show you the character that I gave GillyFishies. So here's the piece that I gave her. Make sure to go check out her channel so you can see her part of the collaboration and subscribe to her videos for some great art. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I really enjoyed it. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe, and don't forget to post any suggestions for future videos in the comment section below, because I'm totally looking forward to more videos. Quick note, I'm moving to a new upload schedule, so expect a video every single Friday. See you guys next time. Bye.